Dad.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Incredibles clips I put in the Discord?
And we're live.
I did not.
Hello, everyone.
Get your bingo cards out, everyone. Welcome. If anyone's wondering why Eli's on the bike, that's because he's trying to run away from his responsibilities. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Law Crimes. We're all here. We're ready to talk about some forbidden, heretical stuff. Today's topic is Inquisition, boys. Inquisitors, funny, goofy, man.
Goofy. Well, there's many things I would call the Inquisition, but never goofy.
You ever wanted a guy to delete your search history? This is delete your search history, the faction.
We haven't been doing this for a minute, and they're like, no.
That's a good one. Oh my gosh!
I was Grandmaster at Overwatch. I am the opposite of that spectrum. Fuck you. I spent too much time in it.
It's not really a brag.
Hell, you were bragging about winning bot lobbies a minute ago. I don't want to hear it.
Now to my wins, my first time wins in bot lobbies on Fortnite. Thank you very much.
That's the least.
Bro, listen. Okay,
thank you, Tom Warren.
As I get closer to 30, my aim gets worse. So
it's the arthritis kicking in.
It's the delusional, speaking to the old gods sort of problem. So let me have this.
We already got Andy Mike going right now.
Thank you, Tom Warren. That's the least made bet I've ever seen. You're coming through, but it's like staticking.
Oh,
that's okay.
Before that,
it adds to the experience.
Well, first of all, donation by Joseph Pollard. Thank you, brother. He says, "You better make that damn bed, Colin, else I'm going to tell Colin."
You can't use him like the fucking boogeyman.
Doesn't care about the bed. Right, this is it's a cursed setup today anyway. But before we get into the actual meat of the podcast, we do have a questions of the week. Thank you guys for your comments.
What are you doing?
I'm opening the window. I usually take my shirt off when I do this because I get so warm.
Inquisition law got my man sweaty.
Well, maybe next week.
Shout out to the remastered audio of this podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, we'd like to hear some of the comments from last couple of weeks ago, last podcast's question of the week, which was #regiment. So the first one is from Sweetness71775, #regiment. Name, classified. Planet of origin, classified. Tactics, classified. Appearance, purple, classified. Enemy specialty, orcs. Very good.
Was this an entry or an SCP article that you found?
It's the purple orcs. You can't see them. For a second, I thought it was Gene Stealers, and I was like, that would have been truly based. Document USA, thank you, brother. James Workshop is going in the Book of Grudges. I ordered my Thankor, got a bomb predator tank instead. Emailed customer service. A week later, I got a reply amounting to, damn, that's crazy.
A ball predator is pretty cool.
Shout out to Crimson Glory for
Take it off, Eli.
Take it off.
I think I got scammed. I wanted Andy to play Fork Knife with the Short King, a Pancreasless Edger, and Hal. Oh, good. I'm glad someone got a name there.
He'll play next time. He'll play next time
when I'm.
He's not going to avoid it forever.
No, I'm sorry. It was I had a commitment to a comedy thing, so I'm sorry.
Eli back is already their shoulders are already sore from carrying me last time. So,
well, I'll be playing on Switch, so I'm not promising particularly good gameplay.
That's good because then we get Switch players.
And they're ass.
Just body
like
them.
us.
And I'm just there like
after 2 games of bot wins that we're not gonna live down.
Oh yeah, we should get Andy to play games beforehand so that we don't have to play bots.
How make your couch, bruh? It's actually a pillow. It's not a
DJ Beast.
On a mess.
Remember for 3 months. Thank you, DJ. Eli's doing
DJ
cardio.
Beast.
What is Colin doing? Nothing.
There's
two other guys in this call. Bloody Shirt Music, $2. Take it off, free the nip.
Yeah.
If you enough donations, then I'll take it off. I think that makes me a prostitute. But that's okay.
Andy, what's the next question?
The next one is from Zach M5485 saying #Regiment. The Regiment. It's an army of people named Reggie.
I like
It's led
this.
by Lord Regigigas and his three generals Reggie Rock, Reggie Ice, and Reggie Steel. Pokemon. I know the reference.
I like
Well
this
done.
regiment.
I'd immediately want them all vaporized. The first, like, dead by first battle.
Why?
Why do you hate Pokemon?
I don't hate Pokemon. I just hate everything called Reg.
You just had an experience of a guy called Reg once.
Reggie's
Shout
a
out to
good
Reg in the
YouTube
chat
channel.
who's listening. Yes, we hate you in particular.
Shout out Reggie, the YouTube channel. I don't hate you. Your stuff is funny. Crimson Glory, take it off.
Wow. All of us are going to get shirtless.
Thank you for the $10 Crimson Glory. I'm slightly convinced.
One
Thinking
day
about
we'll
it.
have a Lorecrimes monthly calendar, and it'll just be all Eli imposed.
What kind of OnlyFans? No boys.
No. No
Yes.
only crimes.
I'll show my
No,
tentacles.
No. Ugh.
Clearly.
Anyway, moving on swiftly from that, the next one is from Huntsman. Let me just find it. Huntsman7274 saying #Regiment. My guard regiment are known as the Pancreas Shock Troops, and they would get Lorecrimes to talk about elves more often. There you go.
Yeah,
Nice.
I like this one.
Very
This
good.
one's good.
I thought you were going to say like an army of diabetics then. For a
All right,
second.
I don't like that one.
They carry
Before every
insulin.
battle, I was like, "Have you seen my needles? I can't find. I need insulin. We've got to
I
go
have
on."
a
Like,
needle. I have a pump.
no, but in the 41st millennium, they wouldn't have a pump. They'd be too like, nah.
I
It's
think
just
they'd
like-
just be executed.
Quantum Cthulhu, you're right.
That's hard. Are you a diabetic? Yeah. I know the Imperium's harsh, but
That
sure they'd
absolutely
be
counts
like-
as a drain on Imperial resources.
yeah, but they got like geneticists and like mechanicus. They'd be like, here's a mechanical pancreas. There you
Yeah,
go.
but if I'm
The
a random
mecha
schmuck,
panks.
like if I joined the tech, the tech priest, then probably yeah. But if I'm just a random schmuck in the guard, no way in hell they're giving me that
I
money.
feel like you'd fall over and then they just turn you into corpse starch. They wouldn't like execute you. They'd just be like, oh, he's down. Get the shovel. Put him in the
The
meat
reason,
grinder.
Lucy McShooty said, "Law crimes after dark over here." #take it off, Eli. Jeez.
Oh
Poor
dear.
Eli. Another one by Bunny Cop says, "Do you not love Reggie the unseen servant, sacrificing his invisible self to save the bard?" I have no idea what any of that meant.
I don't
Is
get
that-
that reference.
Something Baldur's Gate. I don't like Baldur's Gate. Yeah,
I'll
there's
play
another.
that game
There's
someday.
another me being
Wow.
about to be dogged on for an opinion.
Ooh,
I should
Cons
not
like
have opened my
Baldur's
mouth. I don't like CRPGs like that Rogue Trader game. I'm never gonna play it because I don't care.
Angry Homunculus, thank you for the donation.
you.
You're absolutely right. We are going to talk about the Imperial paperwork thing that's coming up.
Hmm.
Is that for the question of the weekend? Is there any more?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, we got a donation from Angry Homunculus saying, "Oh no, we've already
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry." Although no, I was thinking of DJB saying, "Why is Hal in a hieroglyph shirt?"
it's the yellow sign, so clearly. I forget to mention, we said at the beginning of the podcast, we are also on Spotify and other, is it Amazon as well? Amazon.
Yep.
So if you guys want to listen to this stuff offline, say you've actually
Yep.
got like functioning jobs.
And as a fun bonus, I've been going back to, we've been remastering live streams into videos on the channel, and the audio from those is now on Spotify. So the old episodes should be like improved as well.
Bit crisper.
So
bit
that's good.
crisper. And for the next question of the week, we have it for you here, which is, why would you be redacted from Imperial records? #Inquisition. I want to know what filthy, heretical thing you did, you beautiful scum, to
I
get
feel like-
yourselves.
Before
fair.
anyone posts it, I feel like and also for Colin's sake, anyone who's going to
Oh,
mention
boy.
Marathi, like, yeah, that's the
Man,
obvious one to go
man.
for.
we appreciate you, broken human beings who love Marathi, clearly.
Me, hello.
He's
Free
here.
Joe. Thank you for the 5 CHF. I'm afraid I don't know what that is, but thank you. Okay, just want to say I love your content. Wow, a positive message.
Wow.
Thank you.
Found out about
Thank
Lord
you
Crimes
very much.
through me. Positive about
Wow.
me. Holy shit. And love the
Aw.
chemistry between you guys while learning a lot. Wow, holy shit, something
Wow.
positive.
Thank you very
Christ.
much.
That'll get me
we
through
don't
this
react well to
episode.
positivity. We're not used to it. But speaking of something probably not taking that positive, today's topic is the Inquisition. Perhaps, I don't know how the boys feel here. It's either like a big win or a massive stain on the. It's maybe like the necessary evil of Imperial
Depends
stuff.
book from book.
You've got me and Colin will be going through this one here. I've got maybe Colin's got some very funky things to go with, which he's very pleased about. But we're going to start off with a slow entry into it. So first of all, the Inquisition. The formation of the Inquisition happened right at the Siege of Terror, or this year, just before the Siege of Terror itself. They are formed from the original sort of Knights Errant. If anyone here has read Horus Heresy, they know the Knights Errant are basically people who, also Astartes that were from either traitor legions or ones that survived Isfahan, particularly Garvio Loken. Shout out to my man. And Nathaniel Garrow, before I don't mention it, and Andy literally will burst a aneurysm because Nathaniel Garrow is very cool. And the Knights Errant were kind of like, they just discarded their iconography and they went around as like a special Space Marine sort of group for Malcador the Sigillite. And then Malcador basically went, so the Imperium now is kind of like effed for the entirety of time. So reluctantly, they had to now form something to fight against the darkness and chaos. So Malcador presented 12 of these individuals, 8 Astartes and 4 human beings. Unfortunately, Garvio Loken was left out. He was like the kid who was not invited to the group party. Tragic. And these 4 humans
Loser.
and 8 Astartes. He's a cool character. Thank God Erebus killed him. Just kidding. That makes me so sad.
I don't need to hear about it anymore. Thank you, Erebus.
Erebus mentioned shutting down the stream. Basically, the Inquisition now is they present themselves before the Emperor. They all kneel, and the Emperor says, "Hate to do this, boys. You know, it kind of sucks, but we've got to." You know, there's a common joke in like the Imperium, like they often made like, you know, oh, old humanity was so bad they had things like the Inquisition and stuff like that, you know, doing horrific war crimes, and then the Emperor now forms an Inquisition. Common, you know, Eli's probably very happy, like the Emperor is seen as a terrible terrible hypocrite. And the 4 humans would go on to found the Inquisition, whilst the Astartes were basically sent onto the moon of Titan, and then were sent into the warp for about 100 years, forming the Grey Knights. And the Inquisition at this time would go on to sort of lay their groundwork, and then they'd wait. They basically were waiting for the Grey Knights, and then they would go off and hunt in the galaxy. We have a donation. I think I can see it. Is there one?
Yeah,
It was a little while back from Parker Summerlin.
Summerlin, $4.99. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. I just finished Shadow Sun via audiobook. Nice. Which Xenos book should I get into next? Twice Dead King Rune or Farsight?
Farsight.
Yeah, sorry, Andy. Okay, calm down. There,
Twice Dead
Al.
King.
Twice Dead King is objectively better. Farsight's one of my favorite characters.
It leads into a
I
better.
refuse.
There's more material for Farsight if you want to have more to go off. But speaking of something that's not quite far off, that's quite short-sighted, is now the formation of this Inquisition. So I'm going to start off basic. What is an Inquisitor? Seems important to mention. Inquisitors are basically the hunters of all that is wrong within Imperial and society and outside of Imperial society. They are mostly human individuals, just ordinary humans. Some are augmented, and they have special powers to hunt down either chaos or aliens, things that will pervert the Imperium from within, or most, you know, they stop plots, and they are often involved in like big mysteries. The role of the Inquisitor particularly is just they exist in their own sort of bracket. They don't follow any other boundaries of Imperial life. They are limitless authority, and they get to go around and basically deal with threats when they come across them. And the promotion role of an Inquisitor, so usually you don't just straight up an Inquisitor. You actually have to start as an interrogator. As you can imagine what interrogators do, so it's a pretty ruthless beginning. You learn to obviously beat the shit out of people, and you will typically then get better at it to the point where you can go on missions, and you will be promoted to an acolyte. Not everyone who is.
Hell, I think you might have reversed the order a bit.
Oh no, sorry, it's acolytes.
Acolytes
to,
are yeah.
Sorry,
It's
acolyte
acolyte,
to interrogator.
Explicator.
It depends on the
Oh yeah, it
Some
also
things-
depends on with the fucking Inquisitor.
Yeah, because not every Inquisitor has like the same reach. Like some people
Promotional
just go
path.
straight from like acolyte, which is a bit more like ground level, and you're going out on missions. An interrogator might be someone who actually just stays on the ship and then interrogates prisoners. You know, convincing them with torturing them with hentai or something. I don't know.
I like that. That's it said it's like this is where they learn how to interrogate people. Like I'm pretty sure they just picked that one up on the job. And either way,
Yeah.
do you need
that one.
do you need to be taught how to break someone's fingers with a hammer? Like I think I
mean-
could figure that one out on my own.
It's also worth mentioning that like I've just finished the recent Alpha Legion book Harrow Master, and there's like a bit in it where an interrogator's like, "Hey, I'm gonna blackmail you unless you make me like a fully fledged Inquisitor," because they're like an aspirant. It's sort of like, "Oh, you kind of messed up. You better like promote me, or I'm gonna come like get you with all this information that they'll like kill you for." And it's like they break the rules, and they kind of can do what they like, but there is obviously like a board of inquisitorial people that they have to like clear promotions with, but the way you get promoted can be a bit up in the air sometimes. So
It can be a bit strange. Sometimes Inquisitors, they almost like inherit their former like Inquisitors, like they want their teacher's role. But often to become a fully fledged Inquisitor, you need the approval of multiple other Inquisitors to sort of, basically say, this guy's not crazy. So, or it depends on the certain factions and loyalties within it.
Yeah.
But a lot
Or
of
he's
time,
the right kind of crazy.
yeah, he's either right kind of crazy. Crimson Glory, thank you, brother. He says, take it off, Eli. Jesus Christ, that's a lot. I can take mine off for CrossFit classes. You take it off on stream for your comfort.
Wow.
And you have a better build than me. He says, although I'm working on it for the Dark Gods. Thank you, brother.
Well, but this guy's donated $30 for me to take my shirt off. I'll take my shirt off for like a minute.
He'll do it at the end. Give us a flex.
At the end, all right. I guess you
often
gotta
in-
wait, buddy.
You got away. Often Inquisitors have quite not all of them, but a lot of them are psychers. This is because it's a added ability, and it also helps in a way to sort of prevent the Inquisitor's mind sort of being tampered with, though. Oh, sorry, Pancreas, you down there, buddy.
You-
Thanks, DJ Beast.
Plastic
No,
bag.
Xano
That's
as well.
why are you so mean?
To carry on the positivity, before Lorecrimes, I didn't like Fantasy or Eldar. Now I love Vampire accounts, Dark Elves, and
Nice.
collect both Eldar. Thanks, Elf Simp. Wow,
Nice.
Colin.
Spreading the
truly-
word.
Holy shit! Someone else being nice to me after someone
Very
just called
nice.
me disgusting. I fucking showered before
It's
we
a
started
Christmas
this.
miracle.
I just got
It's
out of the
May.
shower.
Man, Colin has actually affected someone else's life financially. This is truly. Is it even a Beastman from Sweden? Thank you. Says Pancras. I've read 4 Kane books and I haven't heard him mention Amberley's breast once. Where is it, Colin? Where?
No, he mentions the Psyker's breasts, not Amberley's.
Amberley will be coming up today, though. But so often Inquisitors are psychers. I don't know if Amberley Vale from the Kuiper's Kane books is a psyker. She might be. I don't know if you know that, Colin.
I don't believe she is.
So
She
not
just
every
has, she has a
Inquisitor.
pet Psyker.
Not every Inquisitor is a psyker, but it's very, very common that Inquisitors are psychers. They're often people who sort of could have been commissars or captains or something like that. They're often taken from the Scholar Progenium, whisked away. Good old orphan trope in Warhammer. Love a good orphan. Don't know why. They just love a good orphan. A lot of them they do. Some of them are quite powerful psychers, but a lot of them just is a general like minor sense. It's just to hold off enemies, really. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, the Inquisition has no authority except to answering to the Emperor himself. But you'll often find that they will give sort of leeway to a more senior Inquisitor, so that one is technically the true authority. But
And,
the
and
Inquisition,
not being funny, but like who's having audiences with the Emperor these days? Gilliman? Like no one else. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. The Emperor said it's fine. It's that meme from Parks and Recreations with Ron Sponsors. It's like, oh, I have a permit. It just says this just says I can do what I want, and that's the Inquisition.
yeah, so they pretty much can do whatever they want. This could lead to the very worst case scenario of their authority. We do have another donation as a Mikhail. Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much.
Despite the mean things I say, I am grateful for all the laughs and knowledge you guys are giving me. Here, have some lion butts. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
for
Shout out to
reading.
Much.
Colin actually reading certain books recently, so I don't want to spoil that if he's not said it yet, but hopefully
I'm starting to read it soon. I'm
starting to read some good
I'm
books. here.
breezing through. I'm going through Thanquil first, and then I'm reading that.
How much for how to reveal his true form? Listen, as the tallest member of Lorecrimes, okay, there's no need to.
All right, settle down there, bud.
Oh,
There's
man.
not much of it. Yeah, I'm only like 5'11", so it's not much.
Are none of us 6 feet tall?
Nah.
My dad's 6'6".
How? How did
My
Your
mom's
mom by
5'1".
feet? Yeah. Same here, buddy.
I'm the tallest in my line.
Lucy was shooting. Colin is a good boy. He got me to love fantasy, but his simple love for Marathi makes me think less of him.
Wow.
All right, see, now that's valid.
That's a half compliment. and half.
So
Thank you
we
very
all.
much.
Yeah, so the most like the limit of Inquisitor's authority extends to the very the most crazy thing in Warhammer, which is the Exterminatus, which is where worst case scenario, it's not used all the time, but it does happen where the planet is so far fucked that essentially the Inquisitor will go, it has to be wiped clean. They will use virus bombs. Some people, I'm sure they've heard, like even like the Dawn of War stuff, where Dawn of War 2 does it really good in that cutscene where Gabriel Angelos, he declares Exterminatus.
Gabriel
And the entire
Angelos.
planet is essentially cleansed of all living things. This is basically when Chaos Taint is just too just too far gone. The Inquisitor often as well will have retinues. Some of them do operate solo, but it's pretty common for them to like basically recruit specialist individuals over the years. Often they will increase particularly blanks as well. Blanks are often used by Inquisitors because they often face sort of rampant psychers, or they basically sharpshooters, people with specialist talents. Navigators are pretty common. They actually go through them pretty quick, so they never get to sort of have navigators of them for very long. Particularly like with the case like Inquisitor Eisenhorn's probably the most famous one people think of. They often build out like a sort of, some of them have like entire armies worth, because essentially the Inquisitor himself doesn't, he has a was it Mastercard Black Card, he has no limit on his spending because it's just all paid for by the Imperium. So, and they have like mansions, houses, they'll have
Inquisitors
ships.
have great credit. And no matter
Pretty
how much they
much.
spend, it's always great.
Donkey Man
It's like in the
USA
800s.
says Critman theme song is The Universe on Fire by Glory Hammer. We will talk about Critman
I love
a little bit
Glory Hammer.
later. Thank you, brother.
Mm.
But so,
Glory
yeah, essentially
Hammer
the Inquisitors never really alone. They are essentially an army onto themselves. The Inquisition was basically going strong for a few thousand years. There's like a small bit mentioned, like the early Inquisitors. They met Conrad Kurz, one of them, and then he got immediately cut in half. So they've been around for a while. And then essentially at a certain point, known as the War of the Beast, the Ordos were Colin keyboard again.
All right, see, some pubs started making noises. BRB.
Yeah, so we're good. So at some point, the Ordos were the Inquisition. Yeah, the Inquisition was essentially just one big organization. They hadn't really, even despite being around for about over 1,000 years at this point, they were pretty much sort of unified under one ideology or one sort of group. There were certain things that we'll talk about later, which is like the ideologies that will eventually split. But
It's
at this point,
just like, we got to get rid of heresy. Great. Like,
Yeah,
no
they just sort of-
specialists, just heresy
they
bad.
didn't really have like a main enemy. It was just threats to the Imperium that required an Inquisitor to deal with, until the War of the Beast, which is when the Orcs, the massive Orc invasion that almost got to Terra itself. And this caused the Inquisition to split into three, because they basically decided, okay, we need to specialize because there are like three separate threats to the Imperium. One of them
was
is
also the
get to
death of Kirill Sinderman, who was one of the OG Inquisitors, and he survived all the way to the War of the Beast before he died. And he was there from the Horus Heresy up till then.
Kirill Sinderman. Shout out to my boy. That's sad.
Loken's dad.
Basically, most educated man in all of Warhammer. He actually went from being an atheist into a true believer, which is quite Warhammer.
Just
like
Emperor Uno reverse card.
when your best mate, like when she starts glowing in front of you, so it's a bit like, that's a bit, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and your other mate gets like possessed by a gigantic demon. You're like, yeah, I don't know anymore.
I guess he didn't really have
Evidence.
faith. He more had like belief, as in like I saw it. So his one's a little bit more literal. But there's some other cool characters. One from the Ahriman trilogy as well, also Ahriman Horus Heresy stuff, where he sort of comes about. But essentially, the Inquisition splits into 3, although still under one big branch of the Inquisition. Often Inquisitors will find that if they're targeting one thing, like if it's aliens, they'll fight whatever the enemy that their investigation leads to. But they will specifically be broken into Xenos, Malleus, and Hereticus. I will explain them a little bit more later, but we've got to fully understand the 42nd millennium's like diverging areas within these different sort of Ordos. Colin's going to talk about the sub factions within.
Oh
the
boy!
Inquisition.
We also got
there's
information
some
before
spice
we-
on our.
before we called. Looting Mashuti gave us $2. Thank you, Looting Mashuti. He says,
Thank
Eli
you.
out here cocking us out of a free show. Hal said I have to wait till the end, so I'm sorry.
Only if he wants to, brothers. Only if he wants to, with consent.
Mm.
But then, yeah, this will be a sort of brief foray into the actual like 42nd millennium ideologies that exist within the Inquisition.
As brief as I can make it.
So another donation by Christopher Stevens.
Thank you.
1/10 of the way there. Sorry for all the distractions. Buy Lorecrime faces photoshopped over which. Put me over the line.
I'll do
I have
an
the
all
hairline
shirtless
for it.
stream.
Don't give me Perturabo. I don't care otherwise. Just don't give me Perturabo.
You know what I'm going to say, so I'm not going to bother.
I think we already know.
Christopher still says $100 for an all shirtless stream, so that's what he's referencing.
None of you want that out of me.
I think he's just referencing me.
Yeah, the rest of us are not quite. We're 6 weeks away from our prime shape.
He said I'll be 6 weeks away for the next 6 years. 60 years.
But Colin with the sub factions.
Right. So there's a lot of these aren't Ordos, by the way. They're different philosophies within the Inquisition on basically how do you be an Inquisitor? What should be your overall goals? What are you working for? What do you like to focus on? No, not even what. Like what's your overall feel for how you should be an Inquisitor? The first you can divide them into two main groups. You got Puritans and you got Radical Inquisitors. And Puritan Inquisitors are, they sound like what you'd think. They follow the Imperial Creed to the letter. Don't consort with the Xenos or the witches or the warp craft. None of that.
Lots of funny hats.
To be fair, they do all have funny hats, but they're good funny hats, so they're cool. Basically, be the Imperium's version of a good little boy and blow up all the bad people, and don't think too hard about the warp. Follow the rules, and I do believe this is the most common kind of Inquisitor, because they're the ones like, hey, don't mess with the stuff we say is bad and is bad, which is fair enough.
Yeah,
Radical.
The totalitarian regime, mostly comprised of people who are doing what they say they have to do so they don't get killed, is full of Puritans. Who'd have thought?
Who could have guessed? But that the Radicals who are do have some points. It's a big galaxy, it's a messy place. Sometimes you got to bend the rules a little bit if you want to get stuff done. Of note is that there is no Ordo that it's like, this one generally draws Radicals, this one draws Puritans, because, let's look at the Ordo Xenos, right? One Inquisitor may be like, if you so much as mention not murdering that Eldar over there, no matter what they have to say, you're going with them when I kill you. Whereas other Ordo Xenos was like, there's a Tyranid invasion going on, maybe we work with the Tau for a bit. One of them just kind of wants territory, the other wants to eat us. So
if you don't immediately Cato Sicarius a water
Tau
cast.
water
Water cast.
that
Immediately
was based. She deserved it.
you're a not a Puritan. That was another one by Joseph Pollard. Thank you, brother. He says, I had to leave the stream early. Oh, sorry, brother. So I want to say, if there was a drip or drown contest, Andy the drip mason would clearly win easy contest. True.
Yes, you would.
He's the best dressed out of all of us.
Quite. Who is Abritus? Inquisitors are definitely hiding Abritus under a rug. I was just reading
from Bloodborne. That's the lost, forgotten, old one.
I never finished Bloodborne.
It's the one which it kind of it basically looks like a Lovecraftian monster,
Ah.
right on the money.
To be fair, I don't own a PlayStation, so I can't really have finished Bloodborne because Sony refuses to just let it be on PC.
60 frames per second Bloodborne remake. Come on,
How about put it on PC remake?
just put on PC. Be a PC port, bro. I'm waiting.
Yeah, that's what I want. But anyway, Radical.
Oh no, Riverside's broken
Oh
again.
my
Liz.
gosh.
Hopefully
Okay.
everyone can hear
Yeah.
us.
As long as you can
Okay.
hear us, chat.
Chad, can you hear us?
Let us know. People
What
feel
warp
there's
demon
no
is your dog
interruption. I think it's
staring at?
Andy Cam.
What warp demon is my dog staring at? He seems very focused on the wall that way. Well, that's a problem for later. Radical. Just Andy broken. All right. Radical. Tony Hawk, the Inquisitor.
Epic.
And sometimes you also can't really tell if one's radical or Puritan. For example, Amberly Vale. She, like, in her memoirs, she'll write, like, yeah, radicals are just one step above heretics, and quite frankly, I wish we could get rid of them. Then she lets the Eldar airdrop an avatar of Cain onto a space station. So, maybe she's a little bit more radical than she'd like to admit. It's that kind of thing.
Some of them just lie to themselves, to be fair. They don't see
I-
themselves as radical.
Yeah, there's also that because there's no oversight in the Inquisition. Like, when you get promoted in the Inquisition, all you get is more clout because the baseline Inquisitor is functionally unlimited power over everything ever. So really the only way is if you piss off enough Inquisitors to come down on you. So lying to yourself and just kind of going with it is perfectly valid. But we'll start with the Puritans. They have the least amount of subfactions, which I think makes sense. There's only so many ways you can differently interpret like Imperial Creed before you're no longer actually following the Imperial Creed and, dogma and all that. First up are the Amalanthians. A lot of these have really awful names to say, by the way, as a heads up. They think that everything in 40K is going according to the Emperor's plan. They don't like change too much. So, don't, that doesn't mean, they're just going to the Tyranids happening is clearly going according to plan. Let's just let them eat that planet. It's more so, within the Imperium, they're not going to be shaking anything up. They're just going to kind of let everyone, keep the status quo going, which has kind of resulted in Amalanthians being about as polite as an Inquisitor is going to get. Because they're like, listen, everyone here is doing their job. Things are chugging along as need be. I'm going to say please and thank you. I'm an Inquisitor, so I will shoot you in the head if I need to, but I'll be polite first. They don't open with blowing you up. Next are the Animolian Beholders, and they're waiting for signs of Big E's return and, see if they can help speed that along.
They sound like either diseases or Pokemon.
Yeah, it gets worse. After them, there's the Ardentites, who they are also waiting for Biggie to come back, but they believe that he's either going to come back as a group of people. It's not just going to be Biggie reincarnated. It's going to be either a group of people or maybe even spread throughout mankind as a whole, which has led to other Inquisitors calling them miracle chasers to make fun of them. But on the upside, these are probably the best investigators in the Inquisition because they're so determined to prove everyone else wrong that they will, let's say, something happens on a world. They're gonna get in the weeds of it, proving look, the Emperor's coming back. Look at these miracles, look at these signs. Usually it's just a chaos cult, but by the time they're done with it, they're so obsessed with proving themselves right that they found out not only every single member of that chaos cult, but everyone they've even looked at. So very good at investigating, even if their overall goal, their ideology, probably is not right. It's probably just going to be Big E again. But hey, 40 big galaxy. You never know what could happen. They could be partially right.
Outfit so quick.
Andy Drift's
Holy
coming out.
shit,
Bro, it's so quick.
yeah. All things aside, he's lightning with that. But there's two more Puritans. The next is monodominant, and this is the simplest one in the ever. The Imperium is the only thing that should be allowed to exist. If you're a non-Imperial human, it is either integrate or we're going to blow you up. If you're an alien or chaos, we're just going to blow you up. That's it. That's monodominance. They're not subtle. They're not quiet. They're the Inquisitors who think exterminatus first, talk never. And then we have the Thorian subfaction, which is such a big subfaction that it has its own subfactions, some of which are radical. It's overall more of like the broadest one is Puritan, but after we get in the weeds, it gets a little radical. They're named after Sebastian Thor, that cool fella priest who ended the Age of Apostasy.
Love that guy.
Cool, real one. And a lot of people think that he was either blessed by the Emperor or just straight up an avatar of him. So Thorians like to look for people like him, either avatars of the Emperor, just because, you know, they're a holy avatar of the Emperor, or maybe even a way to put the rest of Big E's essence in that avatar. Because, you know, at the moment he's stuck on the chair.
The Star Child ones back in lore? There's one that believe in the Star Child thing that came back into canon.
They might have been, but there's also the thing with when that was originally in lore, the Illuminati was a thing. So I don't really know on that one.
Are they the ones that think the Emperor has children or something? Although they think the avatars...
Sensei?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Or they think the Emperor might be reborn in like children or something.
It could be a mix of like
gets
the other ones or like
funky.
the other like sub-factions like all took that idea and ran with it in their own way. Like those Ardentites, like he's coming back in everyone. It's for real. But that's the end of the Puritans. Although like Thorians like could be looking at the Eldar for some stuff. You never know. After all, they did make Slanesh. Who's to say you can't rework the process a bit to just put Big E in a warp body? Although that being said, the more aggressive you get with trying to bring back Big E as a Thorian, the more radical you get. But after that, radicals. There's a lot of these guys. Cassiphilians are first. They're another Thorian group, and they actually work with Puritans just fine. I think the only reason they're considered radical is what they're trying to do, because they like to practice bringing back the dead from the warp to real life, and their end goal is to do that to the Emperor. So I think it's more so radical because it's like, well, your goal's good, we like what you're doing, but it involves warp sorcery. So you're playing with fire a little bit. But from everything I could find, no one really dislikes them, especially because they're not even close to that goal. Like there's no progress being made. Like, and in the the closing days at the time of ending, they're getting ready to bring back Big E. It's more like this is a very long-term project. So really, the worst they'll get is people going, hey, maybe do something better with your time than bringing back the dead. That's not very productive. Very similar is the Revivificators. I hate saying that name. They're dedicated to studying the moment the soul dies, like you die, and then the moment your soul goes from real space in your body to the warp, because they're trying to figure out the how to slow that, keep you around a bit longer, or outright halt it and reverse it, bring you back. Really, it's just a different methodology from the last one, the Cassiphilians. Their ultimate goal is the same thing. They're just they're going to use the Golden Throne as a focus, since that's the thing keeping them tethered to reality. But either way, it's the same deal. Those are both mostly radical because the rewards they can bring are potentially huge. Bring back the Emperor. The downside is, if that's the summoning you accidentally screw up, you're not just bringing back. You're not just summoning a demon. You might summon Khorne onto Terra on accident, because the scale of that is huge. So
it's mostly radical because it just involves the Emperor literally dying.
Yeah, they're like, it's that too. They're not radical because their viewpoints are like disagreed with. All of them, almost all of them, actually, not all of them. Some of them don't want the Emperor, but I'll get to them. Most of them would love Big E to come back. It's just your plan is to fuck with the Emperor. It's a little dangerous.
You did have a Ludi McShooty donation for $2. Thank you. Andy is the Drip King. Holy F, he says. Andy is the Drip King.
Truly.
$2.
Next, oh god, there's still a while to go. These are the Thorians who are a little bit interesting. The Horisians, who are named after Horus, so that already tells you how many friends they're probably going to have. You know how Horus was kind of like the avatar of all 4 chaos gods? Oh my god.
That's fine.
Very
drip
nice.
there. Thank
Holy
you, man.
shit.
Block this mix. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
$5 or Canadian $5. We joke about Colin not seeing movies. Just wondering if the boys have any recommends for historical movies or documentaries.
Oh,
Love
dude.
the videos, lad.
Battle 360. It was a History Channel series where the History Channel was good, and it's all about the USS Enterprise and the Pacific Theater. God, I love that
Wow.
show.
I just watched
Fighting
Shogun.
City of
If you want a
Steel.
current one, Shogun is pretty. Like,
I've
it's
been wanting
not
to watch that.
history, but it's like very enjoyable because it's
Fiction
pretty
history.
authentic.
Mhm.
So if anyone wants to watch that. Do you remember like there used to be a thing on British TV which was like it was like the Total War engine, but they only got like newbies to play it. It was like a live TV.
I remember reading about that, but I never saw it.
It was quite funny, but like it was like in Rome Total War 1, and it was pretty like I remember thinking about that. I thought, oh, that's actually a pretty good show, to be fair. History shows are hard to find a good one because you can
Especially now because the History Channel is
Yeah.
Pawn Stars and
Yep.
worse.
I watched Demolition Derby on History Channel on the Gym TV today.
That sounds about right.
Or it's guys like cutting lumber and bringing it back to their freaking workshop, or selling cars, or
Alaska truckers,
it's
my dude.
so bad.
I used to like. I did like Pawn Stars though.
Oh yeah, Pawn Stars is
But
good.
it was absolutely the start of the History Channel's downfall.
History Channel went downhill though. It's all like conspiracy theories and aliens.
Ancient aliens. Yep. They.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I had another one on my brain. I think I've forgotten it. Oh, never mind. Move on. Oh, it's gonna bug me.
But yeah, Heresians. They saw how Horus was an emperor of all the chaos gods, and they're like, hey, maybe we can learn from that and use warp sorcery to give the emperor a new body to pop in. So they collect chaos tomes and artifacts, mostly for the knowledge, but the end goal would probably be using those collected artifacts to bring the Big E, give him a new body, and shove him into it. Which usually means most other people don't like them because they're actively dicking with chaos artifacts, and that is you know what they say about looking into the abyss. But to be fair to them, they usually don't fall to chaos, but usually and never are two very different things, and it only takes one Inquisitor going off the deep end to doom a whole solar system. So, yeah, they're a little bit dangerous. Also, the founder of that belief is one of the four founders of the Inquisition, who fell to chaos, and I think the only artwork of her I could find was her talking to Abaddon, Moriana, the Chaos Witch. So maybe not the best person you should be founding an inquisitorial school of thought after, but you know, it's 40K. Not logic and reason can go directly to hell. And then we get to my favorite branch. Oh my god, I love this. Istvanism.
Oh my god.
Beautiful. So it's named after Istvan III, where the heresy officially began, you know, when all the loyalists from the traitor legions were done away with. Who's the most? Yeah, I'm going to vote for myself. I'm okay with winning this poll. Yeah, I don't know where it cut off. So Istvanism, they think there is not enough war in Warhammer 40K, so they'll just start shipping orcs to your planet if not enough is going on.
How? Who?
I think they're based.
I'm assuming like a Dark Eldar or someone gaslit them into thinking that was a good idea, and stupid people kept that one going. I love it though; it's beautiful.
I think I hear someone stream.
Hal, I think I'm repeating you.
Am I?
What? Is it me? It is me.
Yeah.
How am I repeating in myself?
I think you did your live stream up.
I have it muted.
I don't have it up. Oh god. Eli.
I promised shirtless stream.
You know what? Hang on. No, if I leave, why is it doing this?
Turn.
A comment. We'll try and stitch this.
Give me for a
Well, that's
second,
like-
Colin.
There you go. You got your shirtless. I'm freaking chub right now, but gotta do what you gotta do for the boys. I did it for you.
You all have to deal with two Collins now. You know what? I'm just gonna power through this.
We might be coming out. Has anyone else got it on speakers?
So hang on, I got an idea.
Oh no, we can't even see him now.
All right. It's worse.
So-
I unplugged my mic. And I don't know how to go back. I just unplugged my mic and put it back in.
We're in the freaking Modern
I'd say
Warfare lobby
like
right
duck
now.
out of Riverside, then rejoin. That might fix it.
All right.
Appreciate you, brothers, for being patient with us. Obviously, the Inquisition is truly.
It's not our fault.
The Inquisition does not want us to know. You guys to know.
We
any of
pay for
lore.
this thing. It's ridiculous.
It's so much worse.
Oh my gosh.
I think my microphone's fine there, so I've got.
Riot shield. Pussy uses riot shield.
I think it sounds fine now.
I think. Hang
Yeah,
on.
it's fine now. We fixed
All right,
it.
good. We're good.
Yeah.
All right, next
Colin
one.
and Andy versus Mike versus.
Oh my god. Next one.
Next one.
Libra cars.
Now Warcrimes is good.
They're like those Amalanthian fellas who don't like change, except they take it so far it loops around and becomes radical. Because let's say you suggest like, hey, maybe this Imperial Guard regiment can temporarily get a new kind of las gun because there's a shortage. They'll just kill you for saying that. Any change is bad, even if it's good change. No change allowed. They might also be feeding Nurgle because of that, because Nurgle likes stagnancy. So, you know, there is that to consider. And Gilliman probably despises these people because he's trying to reform the Imperium, and they don't like that. Ablationists are the next one. They're also insane. They're like the Heresians, kinda. They believe that those who are truly righteous have a duty to damn themselves and use the weapons of humanity's enemies to really achieve salvation. So they will use, you know, chaotic weapons, artifacts, rituals in order to fight back the enemies of the Imperium. Which on the one hand, you know, they don't view this as a positive. They're not like, wow, we could use these cool stuff. They're genuinely like, no, this is a cross we have to bear. This is a burden. This is something horrible. On the, you know, on the flip side of that, they're still using chaotic artifacts, which probably will lead to more problems than it's worth. But for what it's worth, again, they're not doing this because they're like, I just want to use cool shit. They're like, no, this is a cross we must bear in order to achieve salvation.
Donkey Man, USA, Lord Inquisitor, a second colonist hit the Vox Center. Thank you.
Thank you for the $5. Very
Thank
good.
you, brother. Truly, we are trying our best. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Next one is the Alcularians, who try and predict the future, which usually doesn't go well because they're not, you know, siege demons or farseers, so they usually just kind of dick things up. And they have a subset known as the Anticarti, who are not as disliked as the main one because they just look at history. You know, they take a, you know, history runs in cycles. They're like, all right, let's look at the 10,000 years of history we have and see if we can't figure something out for what's coming in the future. Like this thing happens, then it leads to that. Is that a pattern or a one-off? But of course, because some of the Ordos like to redact history, they have a very hard job. I'm not done. We have more.
Oh, God.
The Plutonians believe that you should purposely get people possessed so you can exorcise the demon from them and make them better at fighting chaos.
Fun.
Which they did help teach
Technically
the
works.
Exorcist. I say they were the ones, I believe, who taught like the Exorcist chapter how to do that. So, and they're a chapter that's basically invisible to demons. So it does have, you know,
Apart from Lucius the Eternal.
he's a special case. He doesn't count. So it does have, you know, some grounding in reality. It's just the mortality rate is like 99%. So in practice, you just get a bunch of dead bodies and one guy who has super PTSD, but demons can't see him. So if I was, you know, in charge, I'd say maybe just stick with the Bane Blade and shoot the demon. Don't go through this whole possession garbage. But there's a Space Marine chapter that does this as part of their training. So it kind of works.
The Exorcists.
Yeah. There's the Polypsychana, who believe mankind's going to become a fully psychic race, which, you know, is true. I like to shit on the Emperor, but I don't think he was wrong about that one. I think he was right. That was part of his goal. And Psychic Awakening happened. So more people, in case you forgot, because I couldn't blame you for forgetting about Psychic Awakening. That was wasn't even bad. It was just GW's biggest dud event. It's like it happened.
Is
That
it
was
technically happening again now? There's like a oh no, I'm thinking of Prior Nexus. Never mind.
Yeah,
That's
no,
still going.
that's-
New cards.
Funnily enough, the opposite of the Psychic Awakening is what the Necrons are trying to do.
It's very much like the Force Awakens, isn't it? Like it was relevant for a short time and then it's completely forgettable.
Yep. But it's better than some of the stuff that's come since. Oh, maybe. I don't know. They haven't. There's not been too
Bro,
much
Star Wars is
garbage.
dead. Star Wars
Star Wars is never going to be dead. It is never going to be dead.
It's so I can't.
It's pretty over. I think.
It's pretty like the amount of times like like sometimes as Warhammer fans, like, there's a bit of copium, but the copium in the Star Wars community
It's so bad.
is like, oh my god, it's the droid that was in that one scene in episode 3. They
I'm
made a
not
fucking
saying
TV series out of it.
They don't have copium, and it's where Glup Shido comes from, so it's valid. But remember, this exact thing happened. I'm going full Anticarty Inquisitor, Cycles of History. This exact thing was happening with the prequels, and the EU was a trash fire. And then, oh look, the sequels may also be garbage, but everyone was like, "New Star Wars, holy shit, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be lovely." You're never killing that franchise.
Thank you, Evangelos
you.
Manasis. He says nothing bad happens in Chernobyl. Off to the space gulag heretics.
Thank you.
Chernobyl.
Yes,
What do you
Commodore,
mean? It's a
Commissar.
beautiful place. Did they really? They were digging in the Russians. They were digging in the ground, weren't they? Around that.
The Russians
that's
are
just the
doing
thing
a lot
that
of things
happened.
they shouldn't have been doing in Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Is my mic still busted?
No,
No, it's
sounds
actually
just
good.
fine
Oh,
for
well,
once.
It's like when you watch the series, at least there's the whole thing where like they did everything wrong, but they should have been able to press this one button that shut the reactor down, but the button that was supposed to shut it down didn't work. It's like even with all the incompetence, it would have been fine if that button worked, and it didn't. And yeah, terrible.
It's a good series actually. If anyone wants to watch that, it's a good
But
series.
with the whole Star Wars thing, I've been replaying Knights of the Old Republic 2, and I watched a video today going through like the philosophy of it. And it's like, yeah, that was a better deconstruction of the Jedi and the Sith than
Darth
the Last
Vader,
Jedi. Yeah.
Oh my
Sad
god,
times,
Raw
sad times.
666,
thank you.
$50.
God
Yeah,
damn.
Thank you
Baller.
so much, brother. He says, have you thought about rating Warhammer factions
you.
good to evil based on cruelty over scale? We could do that for a tier list. It's a good idea. I can see
That'd be
heated
fun.
debates on how to rate factions, EX, Dark Elves, Dark Eldar, Witch Hunters, Inquisitors, and Black Templars, Stormlord, Necrons, Beeltan. That's a tier list idea. How
That'd be
evil are people.
How evil all the various Warhammer factions
DJ
are.
Beast,
I feel
I
like
love
Necron's gonna be at the
Galuption, so
top.
I called in a ratio as a G.
That's amazing.
Like you
Star Wars
DJ
is
Beast.
basically Star Wars is dead, and that's why so many people now like Warhammer. So
This is a conversation we can have later. We have more schools of thought.
We live in
that's
a
pretty good tier list.
post-Disney
Star Wars tier
society.
list of characters, by the way.
That'd be fun. Fuck, where was I? Polypsychona. They want to get more people psychers, which has a habit of killing them, because when you turn someone who's not a psycher into a psycher, that usually kills them. And if it doesn't kill them, congrats, you have an untrained psycher who's even worse than normal untrained psychers because they've never had a chance to get used to being a psycher.
I wonder how they fill out blanks.
Probably don't like them. Probably not big fans.
They're like your can around here. Kind
Yeah.
Of thing.
So they're one of the less popular ones. We have
Sorry,
the
Mia Love just put a comment. Star Wars died so WWE could make a comeback.
a soul for a soul. Recongregationism. I hate that name. You can stop making them so long. But they're like the closest an Inquisitor will ever get to like chaotic good, because they think the Imperium sucks. It's awful. It's miserable. Which I'm not going to argue them that point. I think they're pretty dead on with that one. They think it needs to be rebuilt from the ground up, and just what exists now, it needs to go. We need something better. Which again, I find it hard to argue that point. I think it's pretty miserable at 40K. Problem is, they don't really have a plan for how to do this. And the two major plans are to just start civil wars and tear down the infrastructure, which is a very hard sell when Tyranids are at the gates, or start these incredibly long, like, information campaigns, turn people very slowly against the existing government to the point that, like, even the High Lords couldn't ignore it, which in a vacuum probably would be a pretty good solution, except the Imperium doesn't exist in a vacuum. Half the galaxy was just torn in half. The Tyranids, the Necrons, the Eldar, the Tau. There's a lot of people that might just not give the Imperium time to fix itself. So this is, and they're radical because they want to tear down all of the existing infrastructure, like organizations in the Imperium. So I think the thing with them is not that their goals, they're one of the few people I think you can just outright say you have noble, well-intentioned goals in 40K. The problem is the entire setting is against them. Like they just have an impossible task that it's not going to happen.
That's so cute. Ames Bolter. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Also, that they suggest their idea to the wrong person and are immediately declared traitor. Get out. Go to hell.
It could also be like they're radical because ends justify the means thing. So they're willing to do like the greater good sort of common line of like for the greater good. Just blew up an entire Scholar Progenium full of orphans who could have been radical commissars.
Like, even if everyone agreed with their line of thinking, it's going to get a lot of people killed probably. So yeah. And then we have the Seculus Attendus School, who have an even harder job because they think the ecclesiarchy is holding mankind back and want to get rid of it. Good luck.
It's difficult in 40K because when like they say that, but then there's like a living, like you literally can see a saint.
Well, as far as I understand it, it's not that they're
they're not
necessarily like they don't believe the emperor's a god. It's that like the ecclesiarchy as an organization itself is like you suck, you are awful, you need to be gotten rid of. Which again is so entrenched in the Imperium that where do you even start? Do you just start shooting priests?
There's a good bit in Dark Imperium trilogy which explains how there's the priest who becomes a militant apostolic. His name is Matthew. Obviously, very very on the nose there. But like Matthew is like when Gilman first chooses him, like he's a very like humble. He's a true believer. Like supports common people, and his beliefs are technical difficulties juice. Thank you, Andy. Matthew's like a very good character because he's such like a true believer and he genuinely like cares for people. But in the end, like he has like his sort of personal crusade of like he wants to make Gilliman one of the faithful, and like Gilliman chose him because he wasn't like corrupt at all like the rest of the ecclesiarchy was. But then even in the end, when Matthew saw like, oh, but then there's all these like this guy got a gilded tank. And then they had like these crusaders going around who like kill people when I tell them to. He basically, at the end of it, Matthew was like, I'm not a bad person, but a tool's a tool, and I will be riding the G-Wagon with the bling god. So eventually, in the end, like it always came full circle, whereas like the ecclesiarchy had the resources, and Matthew's faith meant like he had to do whatever it took to sort of get to that endpoint. To be fair, he did end up saving the day though, because he got to the Cauldron of Nurgle and basically went Kamehameha. So he did that. He was right in the end, but he was also like Gilliman at the end was like, God damn, Matthew, I hate you so much. You're like, he was like, you're the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them.
He was basically, that fan in Oblivion. He's just like, buy a Zora. Oh, I'll follow you everywhere. And he's that annoying ginger guy from Oblivion.
the adoring fan.
It's the sad part of the ecclesiarchy in Warhammer. Like, eventually it will somewhat seep its way in. But luckily Matthew died before he got evil. So
yeah, I remember listening to that book and being infuriated with him as well. It's just like, I hope he dies soon. Getting fed up with him.
But then there's the thing, like he was right. That's the like.
He was right. I just didn't like that he was right.
He was infuriating because he had a thing where like he wasn't a good listener. He was a great preacher, but he wasn't a good listener. Like honestly, he couldn't hear what Gilliman was saying to him because he's like, "Listen, bro." And to be fair, it was right to him. The Emperor's told him what I'm doing, so bro, you know what I mean? Like, I respect you, but like,
what's the son of a preacher?
I have a bit of a higher, priority list than shiny blue man.
There's only 3 more, by the way. We're almost done.
Yes. Almost there.
Xanthism. So remember the Oblationists, they used chaos, but they're like, we are damning ourselves in order to save mankind. Like,
Like,
you can
flagellant, like flagellators, like the people who, as in like, oh, it's that we're suffering for the good of the greater.
Yeah, that's like what the
Yeah.
Oblationists, one of those first schools is. They're like, look, we're damning ourselves in order to achieve salvation. The Xanthism school is, no, we can totally use chaos safely. We're not damning ourselves. We're just goated. We're him. We can use it safely with no problems. We know what they're doing. So they'll just, like, let's say, there's Tzeentch demons invading a world. They will then summon an army of Nurgle demons, because Nurgle and Tzeentch don't like each other, as the solution to combat this.
True, the Critman style, isn't it?
Yeah. So, fighting fire with fire, it's a saying for a reason. It's a valid tactic. But in my mind, what they're doing is they have a wood fire burning down their house, so they start an electrical fire to take care of it.
Suck
is
out
how
the
it comes
oxygen
across.
and fuel.
It's like you're not helping. You're making things actively worse. There's an even more extreme way to handle that, which is Phaonism, which is they're more extreme because they refuse the emperor status as both a god and the true leader of humanity, which is certainly ballsy. And tech heresy, they do the same things as the Xanthites, but worse. They're whole hog in the chaos land. Xenotech, anything, tech heresy, all that bad stuff. And they want to rip down the Imperium and replace it with a system where they're the governors, where they are in charge.
Tom Warren says getting corrupted sounds like a skill issue. Truly,
Thank you, Tom.
skill issue of will.
The Xanthite's strongest soldier, truly. But yeah, so usually even those Xanthites, I mean, they're always being watched. They're one step above heresy. Phaonism is where you are now a heretic, and this whole philosophy was declared traitors. They were given excommunicate traitoris, and all hunted down. Some survived, and they were quietly rebuilding power. But to my knowledge, this was one of those things when it was the time of ending and GW wasn't moving 40k forward. So don't expect this plot line to go anywhere, because Inquisitors tearing down the Inquisition is not going to sell as well as bringing back a Primarch. And then there's the last one, which is, I'm firmly in this school of thought, Xenos Hybris. They believe at looking at, all the aliens in the galaxy and being like, let's learn from them. Not necessarily make friends. Hey, not necessarily make friends, although they are usually of that bent. But they're like, the Eldar ruled the galaxy for quite some time. Figure out what they did right. What did they do wrong? Let's learn from what they did right and avoid the wrong. The Tau seem to be, they've got their shit together. Let's learn how they keep their empire together and go from there. What are they doing wrong? Avoid that.
I'm just imagining one of these guys watching the fall of the Eldar and just having the bit where they're starting to kiss and skin each other, and he's just there
avoid that.
I don't know what we can glean from this. I don't know what's useful here.
on a smaller scale example of that, such as there's an example in the Eisenhorn book, using grain that's been altered by Xenos tech, so it produces more yield. But then a lot of the Imperium be like, oh, it's been touched by Xenos or whatever. But again, it's just a thing where it's just a small scale use of Xenos technology.
It's acknowledging that, hey, maybe the other factions have some things going for them, that they're still around. How can we use this? It's not necessarily friendship, although a lot of them are going to be like, hey, we can make a truce with the Tau. We don't, at least for now, we don't got to worry about them. They're pretty small. Tyranids are pretty big.
I'm assuming they keep a very wide berth from the Black Templars. Where are they crusading? We're going to steer clear of them.
Just in case. They probably don't want to mess with them. And then I guess just we're through all of them. Just as some final notes, two things. One is that, again, these are not hard schools. These are branches of thought. Inquisitors can change their minds. Usually, it's you start as a Puritan, you go to become a radical. Excepting if a radical Inquisitor was who you were an acolyte to, you're probably going to take after your master. But general trend is you start as a Puritan, and over time you're like, all right, let me break the rules just once. And then it works. So you're like, all right, we'll break them a couple more times. I'll try to avoid it, but and then it goes, I'll do it a couple more. And then you get lost in the sauce, and now you're summoning demons to fight demons. But again, there's nothing saying you can't go the other way. Maybe you have a horrible experience. You're a radical, something goes horribly wrong, and you're like, well, not doing that anymore. I'm a Puritan. We're done with this. It's solely up to the individual Inquisitor. There's no school for Inquisitors. It is
they often use the tools of the enemy against them, but then they also, the most infuriating thing is that they it's quite common they end up switching, isn't it? Whatever you start as, you always end up as the opposite. Generally.
Yeah, it's literally, there's no school for Inquisitors. It's just your master grabs you and you might get promoted to become one. That is how you become an Inquisitor.
Oh, another donation by Crimson Glory. Thank you again, brother. Colin saying Xeno Hybrid gave me a completely different mental image of what he meant.
No, that's the me school. That's my Xenocyberus.
He does wish to be conjoined with
the Ordo Marathi.
You could. It would be like
Okay,
that one
all
Ordo.
right.
It's just me.
Truly degenerate, absolute.
And then
It's just that
a
meme of
Puritan from
Always
Marathi.
Sunny, where it's the big cork board, and he's just there like, Marathi.
Yeah.
It's just all pointed at.
and then just the last thing of my yap train is that usually the path is a common consensus is that radicals are on the path to damnation. It's just how far along are you before you fall and it's time to declare you a traitor. Because again, like I said, most Inquisitors, I believe, are Puritans. So they're called radical Inquisitors for a reason. It's like you are going a bit far. What you're doing is a bit much. So the general idea is that once you become a radical, you're probably on the path of damnation. But again, there's your schools of thought. You can change your mind, believe it or not. That's a skill people can do.
Or as like Eisenhorn has said, certain like Inquisitors, when they got like a stick up their arse, like someone's normal middle ground is someone else, is someone else's radical.
Yeah.
Because some Puritans are literally like, you looked at an Eldar for more than 3 seconds. It's so over. We've got to immediately wipe out your bloodline.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's totally up to individual. Oh,
Stealthy 47 says
Cryptic
Cryptic
did nothing wrong.
Base.
Like I said, they exiled him from the Inquisition, but they never said he was wrong.
It happens. It happens a few times to different Inquisitors. Out on the lads' weekend, you get declared hereticus, and then
drink sparkling water.
You come back. Thank you, Colin, for that sub-faction. That's quite a lot.
Yeah, it's also like being punished for it is entirely dependent on who you're hanging out with and what Inquisitors or other Inquisitors are around watching you do your thing. Because no one else outside of the Inquisition can do a damn thing to stop you, except maybe the custodians if they're around. But there's only 10,000 of them. They're probably not around.
Oh, no,
the moment you
no.
I heard and also.
I know he's on mute. He's on mute.
No, he wasn't on mute when it stops, though. Yeah.
Oh, pain. My
Unbelievable.
man will lose it. But speaking of that, the actual instead of having like the sub factions of trains of thought. What's that say?
The Inquisition is going the stream.
He's been silenced.
No Guinness account. No, but I do have Guinness in my house again. I'm gonna make a Gonster later.
Speaking of those are the main trains of thought, but it's important to understand that that's before you even get to the actual Ordos. This is just the main different 10,000 years worth of ideas being generated. So the main 3 Ordos, we're going to go through the minor ones here, probably quite quickly because they don't have much lore. But the main ones are Ordo Xenos. It's pretty much what you think it is. They investigate aliens, influence of aliens, so things like Tau, particularly Eldar, Dark Eldar, Orcs are sometimes it's not really a thing that they need to do with Orcs because they're not really infiltrating Orcs. They're kind of in your face, and again, this one created after the War of the Beast. So that's the first thing. They actually have very strong ties with the Death Watch, which is the sort of unique space marine group / chapter where they get recruits from other fully fledged chapters, and then people spend a period of time in the Death Watch. So Death Watch kill teams are often either accompanying Ordo Xenos Inquisitors. Tom Warren thanks us. No sane man would drink a Gonster.
That's whatever Colin's having. I don't know what it is.
Colin's having a Gonster apparently.
I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna grab a Monster Energy drink, and then I'm gonna mix it with Guinness. It's the Gonster.
Jesus.
Wonderful.
Malleus is the next one. Malleus is, to be fair, Ordo Xenos is actually, I think, the most populated with Inquisitors, just because Chaos is a little bit more subtle, whereas the plots of there are like more like there's one Chaos plot to ruin a planet, whereas Ordo Xenos, there's so many in sort of interactions with aliens on the sort of daily, really, for the Inquisition. Sorry, for the Imperium. Ordo Malleus is basically destroying demonic threats. These are often the Inquisitors that are pretty like bulked out in armor, so they're like these ones a lot because these ones are like they're not really dealing with average enemies. These are dealing with like, the worst one, and they were born after the Horus Heresy. They're kind of the main one, really. They still they're sort of what the Inquisition was founded for, and they have very strong ties to the Grey Knights, which are the the sort of the 8 Space Marines that were sent to Titan to form a unique chapter born of entirely of psychers who battle demons. Good old Angron got bounced, got body slammed back into the warp. The Grey Knights are often accompanying with Ordo Malleus or take instruction / information with Ordo Malleus. Hereticus, which I kind of think is more like my favorite one, just in terms like I hear like in stories, which is they root out heresy, mutation, evil people, psychers. They essentially are the police force. He's looking like a damn sultan.
You look like a general in medieval Total War.
Jesus Christ. These are the more like they are dealing with like the quote unquote rot within the Imperium. Often the Hereticus ones have the most amount of variety, probably with ideologies, because they define like what is a threat to the Imperium. And these ones actually have strong ties, supposedly, to the Sisters of Battle, although I've not heard it in too many stories necessarily. But they essentially, the Ordo Hereticus didn't actually exist initially with the founding of Xenos and Malleus. This one was formed much later during the Age of Apostasy, so after the Sisters of Battle sort of came about, really, because it was with the whole, someone could literally almost topple the Imperium from within. So that's when it sort of became big. Now onto the minor Ordos. These, by the way, some of these have just like less than a sentence of lore. So we're going to have to go through these pretty quickly. There's Ordo Aegis. Remain vigilant over the Cadian Gate. Not really much anymore.
They're either out of a job or their job is infinitely harder now.
Yeah, it's kind of the gate. The gate's kind of now circles the whole building. So it's the whole fence.
The building is the galaxy.
Yeah, there's some bits in the Eisenhorn story where like he goes to Cadia and he speaks with some of them there. They often do recruit from the actual Cadians, so a lot of Ordo Aegis, I think, are Cadians, which is interesting.
I like to imagine at least one of them must have been sleeping when the Great Rift happened. So he wakes up and finds out, oh man, I'm not going to bed for another 3 months. Like he wakes up.
There's Ordo Astartes, overseers of the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. These ones, from what I know, they mostly are like focused on testing like purity of gene seed and things like that. Often they get killed by the Dark Angels, this order, so they don't really live that long. Again, like any encounter, I think what's the one? Was it the Lions, the Sons of Dawn chapter, the Golden Lions, or the something Lion chapter? They, I think, maybe pissed off this one, and they started basically attacking and sniping off an entire chapter of Space Marines because they could. Ordo, funny. That's actually like one of the most infuriating stories in Warhammer.
This is the revolt. Why is Andy now a Fallout 4 Nuka World character? Thank you for the $2.
Lawrence of Arabia with got vitiligo. Ordo Astra. They study astronomy and stellar information. Probably the most useless. I'm not gonna lie, because people have been studying the stars forever.
To be fair, though, like they keep like stellar maps up to date, which is very important because the Imperium doesn't know how many planets it actually has.
I take my statement back. Then they're probably very useful.
Like day to day, it's not the most helpful, but for like grand strategic planning, it's like that's worth looking into.
There's Ordo Barbarous, which monitor pre-industrial worlds. So I guess there's obviously like just being pre-industrial is you're quite vulnerable to things like chaos, particularly in like bloody barbaric tribes and things like that. But it's also chaos cults just may want to worm their way into these sort of things. Surprised they need a whole Ordo for that, because it must be, again, the Imperium is quite. There's a lot of variety. There could be nice planets, verdant worlds and luxury hotel planets to literally man is still using stick.
I would say it's probably like the easiest. Once things go wrong, the easiest Inquisitor like job to have. It's like, oh no, I have power armor, they have sticks. What am I going to do?
Like, you talk with idiots all day.
Yeah, but you don't really need to deal with them. Just look out for signs of chaos corruption, and if things are going wrong, just shoot the guy who's summoning corn demons. He has an iron sword at best, and then you're good. Problem dealt with.
There's a Horus Heresy bit in one of the novels where like they mention one of the word bearers got killed by a guy with a wooden spear because he got stabbed through the throat, and they're really like, everyone's like, oh man, that guy's gonna be so good. But it's like they're like, that's like, they thought it was embarrassing. Ordo Kronos, which does come up in the Ahriman book. Supposedly this one they study time, and they have like special, when they describe them in the novel, they had like special chronometers like on their ship. Like every single person in the ship has chronometers, even members not the Inquisition, to study how particularly the warp affects time, and obviously trying to help things with the future. But these people, they're all vanished. This entire Ordo disappeared. So obviously they've either gone really far in the past or really far in the future. So they're basically gone. Ordo Custodium it just says based on Terra. I imagine they probably help with the Custodes, but
I think I read they're just yet another group of people keeping Terra safe and in check because it's such a mess that they need to.
Yeah, they're probably a bit generally. I mean, there was like a thing a while ago, was it end of 9th maybe, with the Custodes? Like there was a whole gene stealer cult on Terra, so it's like, whoops, someone missed that. Ordo Desolatus. I don't know if they have anything on them. I don't know if Colin remembers something from them.
Oh, we know nothing about them, but the Ordo is just one guy. So
Brian,
you want to know how easy it is to make an Ordo? Call yourself a member of the Ordo whatever, and there's now another Ordo.
Well, considering it's Desolatus, so maybe it's something to do with end times, desolation sort of purposes. Also, Stealthy for a donation there. Thank you, brother. So Space Force did not get away with killing a bunch of the members of the Inquisition.
Yeah, but
they kind of did.
They ball it.
The Inquisition definitely, they actually avoid them sometimes. They're just like, they know they're willing to fight them, so it's funny. They're balling. We've got next one, which is Ordos Excorium. This one just monitors exterminatus. That's a hell of a job, to be fair. They just watch worlds die constantly. Ordo Machinium, which oversees the Adeptus Mechanicus. I bet they have no success in that because the Mechanicus just does not care for oversight at all. Ordo Maledictum, which oversees issues relating to the Great Rift. I think this one was founded probably not that long ago then. Maybe they probably have no luck. When I say all issues relating to the Great Rift, this is also to do with the Psychic Awakening, I imagine, to be fair, because the massive amount of Psychers popping up is obviously a vulnerability for the Imperium. Ordo Militarum, which oversees the Imperial Guard. I think maybe Amberley Vale might have been part of that, or possibly like minor Ordos are not really mentioned in many books, or it might be a thing where it just might be in like one specific area. I don't imagine there's many Inquisitors that oversee the Imperial Guard in total because there's just so much Imperial Guard. Ordo Necros, unknown purpose, but I guess we can probably imagine it's probably related to the spicy undead boys.
It could just be death in general.
Could do, yeah.
Again, there's so many. We just their lore starts and ends with "you exist."
Someone said a link disappeared. Someone nearly leaked their adult material. Ordo Obsoletus, known to have investigated the destruction of the Holocaust of Kestus Minor. I don't even know what that even means. The fact that it's called Ordo Obsoletus is funny as hell because they're obviously there's no point in even how they're probably a fake event.
Legit.
Ordo Originatus says tries to uncover the mystery of the Inquisition's origins.
Wow.
My God, that's how useless they are. Ordo Redactors, which Colin has a funny little tidbit about. Yes, if you want to talk about that, Colin.
Well, you see, there's the Ordo. Hang on, let's see where the other one is. There's the Ordo Originatus, whose whole job is to make sure someone knows history. Someone needs to know what's actually happened and isn't just myth and legend. The Ordo Redactus's job is to make sure the only thing left in people's minds and textbooks are myths and legends and not the uncomfortable truth of things like the Horus Heresy. So these people are either working together, or because it's 40K and they're probably not, we just have two entire Ordos of Inquisitors whose job is wasting everyone's time.
One's bookmakers, one's book
Awesome.
burners, basically.
Yeah.
Ordo Sanctum, which oversees the ecclesiarchy, they're doing a terrible job, clearly, because the ecclesiarchy is very corrupt in Warhammer. Ordo Scriptorum, monitor imperial records and communiques. Probably the hardest job out of anyone, I won't lie. That one seems like impossible. Ordo Senatorum, again, something's just unknown. I'm pretty sure something's just made up. Ordos I can't even pronounce this one right. Sepultal Rorum. They research plagues. I think Colin mentioned them slightly before, particularly the zombie plague. And yeah, they clearly haven't got anything back to us yet. They stay a bit
There
late.
was merch from Andy.
Ordo Sicarius, founded to police activities of the Officio Assassinorum. This was sort of similar time of apparently when obviously Goj Van Dyer was about.
Okay.
Same time as I guess Hereticus was formed, but I don't think the Assassinorum. There's been events where the Assassinorum as well just kind of do what they want because it's hard to stand up to the Assassinorum. Ordos Thanatos, unknown purposes. And then, funny enough, Ordos Necros is actually not the Necron one because there's Ordos Vigilus, which oversees the Ordo of the Necros one. It is an Ordo to oversee another Ordo, which is so dumb.
Helpful.
But lastly, on today's episode, famous Inquisitors, just sort of a few probably some of us have heard. We're starting by different Ordos. So Ordos Malleus. There's one called Courtiers, who probably is getting a new model at the time of recording. He's got like a double. He actually has an eagle which has two heads, like a living eagle, and he wears like nice, like renowned golden armor. He's also seen at the end of the Arcs of Omen campaign, as he's the one seen readying all the Inquisition elements. Hector Rex, I can't remember if he's from one of the games or not, possibly. There's Quixos, who is in the Eisenhorn novels. Quixos is a radical inquisitor who literally has like a horse face, and I'm not messing with you. This is one of the guys who he goes so far down like the radical route that he actually thinks like people interrupting his radical his whole plan was to basically destroy and recreate like Cadian gates, and to do that he would sacrifice people, like sort of a psychic like sacrifice to basically remake a psychic Cadian gate. This is way before Cadia would fall. So he could have been right. But Quixos essentially is so radical that he literally thinks people trying to stop him are chaos. So he's like, what's wrong with you? There's a Inquisitor called Amazi. I've never heard this one, unfortunately. There's one just called Covenant. I don't know who Covenant is.
It's Halo.
Maybe. Inquisitor Erasmus. Again, not sure. Carter Valanovas. Again, it's probably some short stories I've not read. And then there's one called Titus Endor, who was in Ordo Xenos, but he actually got blackmailed and he had to join Ordo Malleus. Titus Endor is like basically the best friend of Eisenhorn when they were growing up. They had the same master. And Titus Endor is a bit of a massive goofball. I think this guy mostly works solo and he wears like cool armor and stuff. But this guy is like an absolute, like, he's just literally, imagine like old like Civil War general as a human being. He's a very bizarre figure. And then on to Ordo Xenos, which is probably the more famous one. We start off with Cryptman. For any context for people, Cryptman is the guy who basically came up with the Tyrannid counter strategy. I don't know if he discovered the Tyranids necessarily. He might have done. But Krypton essentially basically went, you know what we need to do with the Tyranids? We don't need to fight them or defend them. Well, sorry. He initially came up with like how to sort of starve out Tyranid hyphae by exterminating planet, and then he came up with the brilliant idea of like, you know what, those orcs over there, they're Tyranids. Why don't we send them to fight each other, and perhaps they'll reach a stalemate, rather than they're kind of like Dragon Ball Z characters, and they actually just got stronger each time they fought each other. So now the Tyranids high fleets that have fought orcs have actually won, consumed a load of biomass, and they've gotten stronger.
Yeah.
So thank you, Krypton. I think he's half dead as well.
We have a Crimson Glory donation, $2.
Oh.
Thank you. Rex is the Giga Chat from Vrax.
Oh, thank you, Crimson Glory. Thank you,
And,
brother.
Lucas has informed me the Inquisitor from Chaos Gate was hot.
I think that's on the
There you
thumbnail,
go.
actually.
Yeah, he's cooking.
Ordos Xenos as well, sorry, is the most renowned one. Gregor Eisenhorn. Eisenhorn, obviously, his whole journey is like he started off as a strict Puritan, and then over his course of his sort of career, he sort of ends up on the more slightly radical side, and you sort of see the effects of what he goes through to become a radical Inquisitor. Emil Darkhammer. I think Darkhammer is the one who's in the pretty chunky power armor. I think he's related to the First War Armageddon. I think from what I know of a tidbit of lore on him, he's the one who basically says, don't mess with the space wolves because they're just going to come after us, so it's not worth it. Commodus Vogue, who's actually a colleague of Eisenhorn. He's often appeared in quite a few of the Eisenhorn novels. Vogue is essentially a bit more of like an older Inquisitor, one of the oldest Inquisitors. And this guy was he had the largest retinue of anyone. He literally had an army, but he does sort of fight. He's an ally of Eisenhorn, even though Eisenhorn says they're not friends, and the guy doesn't understand sarcasm, but he does like him. Helena Valeria, I can't remember where she's from, but I've heard the name of the Inquisitor. Gideon Ravener, who was an apprentice to Eisenhorn, who then got blown up in a huge attack. He basically, his whole body was burned, scarred, and his basically got paralyzed, and he's now sitting in like the sickest wheelchair ever been made, and he was a powerful psyker, and he's even more powerful. But Ravenor is known to be quite lenient with, even though he's in Ordos Hereticus, he's quite lenient with Xenos. He's actually an ally of certain Eldari factions, and they even let him on to their craft world because they respect him so much. What's that from Andy there? Ravener 40k Professor. Oh, he's Professor X. That's true. I wonder who his like equivalent of Eric, Magnus or Magneto would be. Jenna Orcherial. Don't know who she's from. Verlaine Ramus. Some of these some of these are just unknown ones. Kyria Draxus, unknown. And then there's the one from Caiaphas Cain. Oh, sorry, what's it called? Off the top of my head.
Amberley Vale.
Amberley Vale, also, sorry, it's not on the list, really enough. Amberley Vale is also from Ordos Xenos. She's kind of cool. I think she honestly will be involved in like our Caiaphas Cain video, so I don't want to go into her too much here, but she's a interesting character who basically is quite non-traditional as what you think an Inquisitor would be. She's almost quite like a normal person, which is quite cool. Haldane, who was a apprentice of the previous Inquisitor called Commodus Vogue. Haldane's weird because he's essentially, even though Vogue's quite like an understanding but like staunch ally of Eisenhorn, Haldane hates Eisenhorn. Like their first mission, Haldane got mauled by like a massive like snow leopard weird thing because of Eisenhorn, and he's like, his face is all like messed up, and he becomes like the most Puritan Inquisitor you could ever think of, until he actually lives for like hundreds of years, and eventually he appears in the Sabbat World Crusade with Gaunt's Ghost, and he literally says he looks like a weird like muzzled twisted creature at the end of it. He looks so weird, like apparently no one questions it. They're like, yeah, that guy's the thing. Now on to the last bit, which is Ordos Hereticus. The absolute copy pasta here for Freudo Karamazov, who obviously is clearly not taken from Brothers Karamazov of Dostoevsky there. Tyrius is apparently one who looks exactly like the name Typhus, but is not. So he's an Inquisitor.
We swear they're different.
I swear they're different. Silas Hand. I can't remember where Tyrius or Silas Hand are from. They might have been involved in short stories. Erasmus Kroll, also Crowell. Can't remember where Erasmus Kroll is from. I don't know if he's from one of the video games, possibly, or he's in some other shorter stories as well. People in the chat might be able to help out there if I'm missing somewhere. Karamazov from TSC. Yeah, so yes, the one.
chair guy?
Inquisitor Karamazov is literally the one in the massive throne. He is so
Epic.
cool.
The Throne of Judgment.
What about Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau? Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau
Wonderful.
is.
I think when he was around, he was the first Inquisitor.
Yeah, that's an actual thing. Katerina
Beautiful.
Greyfax as well. Greyfax is the Inquisitor who basically was kept. I'm remembering now. One of the female ones I said earlier, I think it's Verlaine Erasmus. She's the one who's the mortal enemy of Katerina Greyfax, and Rasmus, I think, is the one who gets basically stuck in Trajan's labyrinth, and then he puts like things in her brain, and then he goes like, it was so. He's the one who he writes the famous letter to, and he basically thanks her for making donations because like her rescue squad tried to come save her, and he was like, "Thank you for donating to the museum." Katerina Greyfax is the one who is on Cadia when it falls, and then joins the Celestine Crusade, joins the Brute Gilliman, makes it all the way to Terra. Then has like some sort of adventures with Saint Celestine. I think Katerina may have been. So Greyfax is quite a Puritan because she's even suspicious of like Imperial Saints, which is like obviously, bro, that's literally like the embodiment of the Emperor. And then there's one guy who's not belonging to any of the Ordos apparently, and his name is Liechtenstein. What I said before, Liechtenstein is just a guy who doesn't belong to any Ordos. He's just there, Liechtensteining about. He's obviously. He probably sends people to war and then comes back with more soldiers, if you know what I mean. So, if anyone knows their history, they'll probably appreciate that. That's kind of that's like the main thing about the Inquisition. I do have a bit about Eisenhorn, but I'm going to say that for another episode because Eisenhorn there's so much lore in that, and I think when we have this whole episode, it will obviously be too much. But Eisenhorn will be a video I'll be happy to make some another time. Does anyone have any closing thoughts on Inquisitors, Inquisition, or stories? Sorry, Andy.
We have a donation from Angry Homunculus for €2, whatever, pounds. Thank you very much. Greyfax and Celestine OTP. I'm getting my broom out to shoo you away. But thank you.
Is awesome. He's linked to the story of a death of an angel with the Primarch.
Oh yeah, that guy, who you'd think would be infinitely more important than he actually was, but no, we move away from that.
Funny enough, there's almost too much Warhammer lore at times. I sometimes feel that. But essentially, that is the Inquisition for today. Apologies for the technical stuff. Okay, go ahead, Con.
I have one last story. It's not much of a story. It's like 3 sentences of lore, but it makes me funny. It makes me giggle. There was once an acolyte named Abigail Cruz. And usually when you go from acolyte to inquisitor, this takes decades and decades and decades. It took her 3 years because it turns out her father, who she thought was dead, was actually an inquisitor. And he was helping her, he was helping his kid along the way get her into power. And as thanks for that, the moment she became an inquisitor, she denounced him for misuse of his power, and they now hate each other.
Wow.
Nice. It wasn't much, but it's just goofy little.
What about that guy?
Inquisition is a shit show.
Stealthy always said, "What about that guy that Logan Grimnar decapitated?"
Oh yeah,
that was a Grey Knight. I'm pretty sure, wasn't it?
No, I think he did that to a Grey Knight and an Inquisitor.
I think that was also. Was that the Changeling? I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it was Darkhammer, but it was actually the Changeling pretending to be Darkhammer, if I remember correctly.
Nothing can ever just happen. Everything needs to be chaos. No, it's been 10,000 years. No, things can never just go wrong on their own because the Imperium sucks. It's always chaos. What's narrative consistency? I've never heard of it.
MP Bro says, brought my Eisenhorn Mini yesterday. Cheers.
Nice, and thank you.
Yeah.
Nice. That's pretty. Eisenhorn is Eisenhorn is a good story, to be fair. If anyone would wants to get into just straight up on the novels, if you already got a standing knowledge of Warhammer, just go for Eisenhorn. It's Like it doesn't let it down. The only downside about those.
Oh, and
We didn't say. I would say Crimson
Yeah.
Glory. $5. Thank you. On the
Thank
blood of
you.
our fathers, on the blood of our sons, we swore to uphold the covenant. God, that speech is fucking great.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Crimson Glory. Yeah, if we've missed anything, hopefully brothers will like let us know. Thank you for all the donations everyone made during the stream. Apologies for
very
the technical
As Andy's disappearing again. Oh my
Oh,
god.
gosh.
Hey,
Green Knights
the
of
thumbs
the
up is
White
consistent.
He's here. He's happy to be here. We will be, for people listening later, it will be smoothed out. We promise.
Hopefully.
We've got some more tier lists coming soon. Got some gaming streams probably just when we in the mood. We're doing one at least one every week or 2 weeks at this rate. So be sure to pop along there. Let us know what games you want us to play, because obviously we're serious gamers over here.
Yeah.
So truly not
Petition for more
30-year-old
Fortnite,
aims.
please.
Yes, more Fortnite. Because I actually enjoyed that, so I'm gonna get good at that.
Wow.
I need to carry. Thank you, everyone.
Where's
Feet
Peppy?
tier
We're
list
not
is
doing the
happening,
feet
Rose
tier list.
Pepe. Star Wars tier list, though. Actually, I think I said earlier. We need to.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that.
If that being said, though, I think everyone, thank you so much for listening, watching, liking the streams, particular streams.
Plural.
We'll try and stitch it all together, and we will see you guys soon on the next one. I don't know if we I think it might be a fancy one, possibly soon, coming up for a.
What is this one? I thought Pankers in the Work was alternate history hub's cousin.
Jesus, I don't know if it's a compliment or an insult.
I mean, I quite like his stuff and have for like a decade. So
Tom Warren, don't worry, Hal. You're already better than Colin. I guess that's a video game. I'm about to say as a person, but he's better than me.
This is absurd. No, I don't say that either.
Colin fell off. Jesus, Helldivers actually probably me. Helldivers would be a good idea. Technically, it's tax deductible getting that game because we're playing it on stream. That being said, everyone, thank you so much for listening, watching, donating. We appreciate you. Love you all, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Take care.
Cheers.